Throughout my playing career, I've always been thought of as a accurate, consistent iron player, and really it boiled down to one reason only that I focused on. I would try to hit through this window with all different clubs, get everything launching that same way, whether it's this sand wedge here in my hands, whether it's a 7-iron, whether it's a 4-iron. I'm David Duval, and this is my full swing special.
Golf Channel Academy.
Welcome to Golf Channel Academy. I'm your host, Charlie Reimer. We are at the Ritz-Carlton Golf Club in beautiful Orlando, Florida, with David Duval, the former #1 ranked player in the world, based strongly on your unbelievable iron play. In fact, a couple of times he led the PGA Tour in ball striking, and we're going to get right to it. Getting through that bag. We're going to go from the wedges all the way to the long irons, and we're going to start with the wedges. Okay, the term flighting golf shots, that's control of the trajectory, how the ball is launching. That's something I always really admired in your wedge play. Talk to me about how you control the trajectory, the flighting of the shots, and why is it so important?
Flighting the golf ball, to me, when I talk about flighting, yes, every now and again there might be a situation where I want to hit a 58-degree wedge up in the air, a lot higher than I normally would. But typically, a solidly struck 58-degree wedge, 59-degree wedge is going to come out with a good enough height, but plenty of spin to stop. If there's one thing I don't ever want to do when I'm on a golf course, is have a golf ball land on a green and come back towards me. In golf, you need to move the ball forward. You don't need it coming back at you. I know it sounds kind of simple and silly, but I want the ball to hit up there and stop rather quickly. I don't want it to spin back too much. That's when it becomes very difficult to control distances. And I've just found that if you can flight your wedges down a bit, you can, first of all, eliminate a ton of backspin, so it's not going to come at you. But secondly, you're going to have a more consistent distance of control because the ball's not shooting up as much and then kind of falling out of the air.
Let me see a couple of those pitching wedges. And,
okay.
and I think for a lot of our viewers at home, you'll be able to see this. I think this ball flight's a little lower than maybe most people might think.
It is, and you know what? Do I give up distance because of it? Well, maybe, but you're only talking a couple of yards. But I gain a lot of control because of that. And so I just set up, and if I can have the golf ball come out of the window I want, then that's fine. That is nearly perfect, that one right there.
Do you ever feel like in your wedge play that you go after one hard? Is there any reason to do that?
The only time I would go really hard at a wedge is when you're kind of in between clubs but downwind, because the wind's going to help eliminate some of that spin. It's going to take a little bit of spin off the golf ball. If you're ever into the wind, you need to really add club, use more club to try to take spin off it that way, hit the golf ball that much softer, and make sure you fly it down. Because typically, as we all know, I'll hit another one here. If I go at this and hit it really hard, it's going to come out 30–40% higher.
Yeah, absolutely.
That for me becomes incredibly difficult to control the distance.
Now let's talk a little bit about practicing, and maybe walk me through, this your other couple of wedges here, maybe walk me through how you're going to tackle a practice session when you're out and you really are in that mode where you got to sort of get things in order. Well, what is a practice session like for you?
Well, if I got my 58-degree in my hand like I do here, I'm going to start, as much as anything, trying to get the distances I want, and I'm going to do that again through trajectory. I'm going to want this ball coming out something like this, not like this. So if I'm struggling with a sand wedge like this, I try to hit a solid golf shot as low as I can hit it. I want this to come out, if I'm struggling and I'm practicing, I want it a solidly hit shot as low as I can hit it.
And that's opposite thinking from most average golfers. They're trying to hit it as high as they can.
Well, that's where you lose control of the distance again. You know, once I get control of the flight again, then I can move the ball up or down a little bit if I feel like I need to. But as much as anything, when you're hitting it low, you're really having to control the face through the hit. You're really having to make sure you control the loft of the golf club, how the leading edge gets under the ball, how the bounce of the club works to get it to come off properly. And that's why I've always felt like if you can get it down flighted with a solid hit, you can become a good wedge player.
David, great thoughts on wedge play. When we return, we're going to move a little deeper into the bag. We're going to look at maybe some 7 and 8 irons. That's coming up next on Golf Channel Academy. Back on Golf Channel Academy with David Duval. We're working our way a little deeper into his bag. That's a 7 iron, and we're going to talk some 7 irons and 8 irons right now. David, I've never asked you this. Do you have a favorite club in the bag?
No particular favorite. The way I like to look at a set of golf clubs, though, is at the 7 iron, because if the transition from an 8 iron to a 7 iron to the 6 iron, I think the 7 iron can be the most funky looking club at times. If that club looks good, I'm good.
When you're sizing up a new set of clubs, the first club you look at is that 7 iron.
I look at that, I look at the offset, and I look at the bounce. Yep, pretty simple things.
Okay, let's talk some fundamentals a little bit. What are your views on ball position?
Well, for me, I've never really altered the ball position. If anything, I probably have the ball a little more forward than a lot of other players may have. And the ball position, or at least my body position, changes just by the club. If I'm set up here, I may look like this with a 7 iron. But if I have the 4, I'm going to get a little wider, so all of a sudden I've moved back. You know, you get to the driver, you keep moving further back. I don't manipulate the ball position too much unless there's some extreme circumstances, maybe severe downwind. I might move it up just a little bit to really try to get it up in the air. If I'm trying to hit the kind of 3/4 knockdown controlled shot, might move it back just slightly, but I'm not talking a lot, just an inch or so, just to kind of promote getting that much more on top and just kind of flighting it down.
Show me your grip. We've always talked about it. David Duval has a really strong grip down in the fingers. Do you consider your grip to be strong?
I consider it a proper grip. It's certainly based off of how I like to swing a golf club, which is rotation. You know, I'm trying to turn and move in a circle as hard as I can. To do that, I want to hold the golf club like I do so I don't have to roll the face. It kind of goes into the irons all the way through the bag.
When you look down, tell me what you see.
Well, let's see. I see about two knuckles, knuckle and a half to 2 knuckles.
Yeah.
And I monitor it in a very simple way, because at times I get it too much,
yeah,
especially in my right hand. I really pay attention to this one, but a simple way to monitor it: flatten this wrist, flatten the club face. That's a neutral grip.
Yep.
I want to have it about here. I at times have gotten it to about here, so that's too much. So I'll just check it, and if I'll put it up here like this, if my toe's a little bit up, all right, now I'm holding it how I want to hold it.
Now, if you're out playing a tournament round, is there a certain ball flight that you see or a miss that you see and something goes off in your brain? I got to check my grip.
If I see a shot comes off funny, I'm then going to actually come back and look at what happened with the divot, because that tells you as much as anything. Did I dig it? Is the toe closing over so that you can see a funny shaped divot? Is the heel leading? Something like that. And will I adjust? Well, you know, I'll just go through kind of simply, just like I showed you, and say, all right, well, I was about here. You know, or I might address a ball and go like, wait a second, that's a little too high. Okay, I need to get it back into this position. And I really, like I said, try to monitor this, because I've always kind of gotten where I want to strangle it with my right hand a little bit too much. So I try to get it back into my fingers and soften it up a bit.
Let's talk alignment a little bit. I notice in your bag behind you there, there is an alignment stick. Is that something that you use very frequently in your practice sessions?
Not a lot. If I feel like I'm struggling with alignment, I'll throw it down, then maybe throw a club on it to check ball position in a perpendicular fashion. But I don't want to over-rely on it. If anything, especially in tournament play, the way I would go about correcting my alignment was I'd have my caddy stand behind me as I hit the shot. And I wouldn't tell him where I was aiming, and I wouldn't ask him where I'm aiming, and I wouldn't have him tell me. I would just simply ask, did that ball go where I was aiming? Yes. Then I'd move around and I'd say, did that ball go where I was aiming? The reason is because it's easy to fix your aim. You know, as long as the ball's going where you're aiming, I can adjust and move my body around and keep the ball going where I'm aiming.
I'm pretty sure most of the time throughout your career, that ball went where you have been aiming. We're going to move a little bit deeper into David's bag when we return right here on Golf Channel Academy. All right, so let's head over to your bag,
right,
David. And one of the things I noticed, I see a lot of these aiming sticks.
Yeah, oh yeah.
What do you use this for?
They're actually quite useful, Charlie.
Welcome back to Golf Channel Academy with four-time first-team All-American at Georgia
That's right.
Tech. And you don't get as much credit as you deserve for that, because your freshman year, you were actually my teammate, and I probably held you back a little bit.
A little bit, yeah, for sure.
Well, David, we're moving through the golf bag. We've got the 6-iron in your hands now, and you were just telling me that the 7-iron is the last club in the bag that you actually aim at flag sticks. When you get to 6, your strategy changes a little bit.
It does change, and that's why we only went from the 7 to 6. And the 7 is typically on the days I'm feeling extremely good about how I'm hitting the golf ball. I'm in good control, flight's where I'm wanting, the distance control is there. But once I get to a 6-iron, situations may dictate a change in strategy with it, but I typically start aiming away from the flag towards the middle of the green, because success, if you look statistically on tour, average distances for the 6-iron, 5-iron, 4-iron, it's really start to get further away from the hole. So if you can successfully get a 6-iron on the green, a 5-iron on the green, you've hit a good golf shot. And so that's really where my strategy changes. I start aiming up middle of the greens, and if anything, towards the front half of the greens as well.
Well, you aim that one at a target for me, and I want our viewers to pay attention in this golf swing to the way he releases a golf club. I just want them to pay attention. Then
right,
we're going to explain a little bit of that right after we see the 6-iron. Now, your thought process on how the golf club releases, in particular the wrist action, is a little bit different, really, than anybody I've ever talked to about it. Explain that to me a little bit.
Well, it just goes back to how can I consistently get the golf ball to launch how I want and move how I want. And I just found years ago, through repetition and practice, through talking with some instructors over the last couple years who showed me what I did so clearly and did so well, that really I'm just trying to get my wrists, trying to get the club from here to here in this motion. I want this palm just to keep going like this.
And do that again for me. That is so different than anything I've seen. That move, I never see a PGA Tour player practicing that move.
Well,
have you?
Well, maybe not practicing it, but if you go and see a lot of the players, you'll see them on practice swings on tour, maybe on the slow motions. You'll see them shots, and you'll see this right there. You'll see that face like this. That's the same thing they're trying to do, is control the club face. You know, you won't see them hit a little things like this with a practice swing. You know, they're really trying to control how the golf club's going into the ball, through the ground, and how it's exiting.
And you'll actually use this aiming stick,
I do.
not as much as an alignment aid,
Right,
but to help you get that feeling.
Yeah, you know, I broke my wrist. I have a not very good right elbow, and so practicing this way is a little bit hard for me. Certainly, I can turn the club over and feel it, but it's good for me. I'll grab the stick so I can just really get that motion and feel that speed of just doing this. And you can see my wrist is just breaking this way. It's not rolling. There's none of this.
Yeah, that's what most people would practice, is that roll over.
Right, I'm just this. I'm releasing the golf club. The golf club's getting over here really well, but I'm just doing it this way. You put the face on it, face it and move it.
Will you hit a couple more for me? And I think our viewers are going to look at your golf swing quite a bit differently after hearing that explanation from you. Now, you get your feedback, obviously, from watching the flight of that ball. Do you get any feedback from your divot?
I do. Yeah, I'm trying to get the golf ball to end up there at the mirror way out there. You'll see that one cut a little bit, but if you just kind of lay down, I have a perfectly square divot here. You could do better than me, Charlie. That divot's a good 30, 40 yards left of where I'm trying to hit it, and I'm hitting a cut. What that means with a square divot is I'm creating this circle to get around me, and none of this is happening. It's just going like this.
Really amazing approach to the game, and remember, this is an approach that took him to #1 in the world when Tiger Woods was at his prime. Really cool stuff, David. Stick with us, folks. We're gonna have David hit some 2-irons. Yes, they still exist. That's coming up next on Golf Channel Academy. Let me see that thing. Welcome back to Golf Channel Academy. Look at that. That's a 2-iron. It's a butter knife. Why in the world? I mean, I know you're the champion golfer of the year, but I mean, old Tom Morris used to hit that. Why are you still hitting a 2-iron?
Yeah, you know, it's just something I grew up on. I grew up with 1-irons, 2-irons, even with the changes in equipment, the balls. I couldn't get away from it. I messed with hybrids, and I didn't like how they flew for me. I felt like they spun too much, tended to turn over. I want to be able to have a club that I can get in the air sufficiently well, but also keep down and drive. It's not like this is a scoring club, but I can move it the way I want to move it consistently. I have to really work and almost change my golf swing to hit a hybrid.
But a hybrid, for the average golfer, that's a club in all your pro-am play and all the golf you played with folks all over the world. A hybrid's a club that can be very useful for an average golfer.
I'm not saying throw away your hybrids and go get this. Go get a 2-iron, but that's just how I like to play the game, how I approach the game. Hybrids are much more useful for the everyday player, easier to get in the air. You don't have to feel like you have to help the ball up, because that's what anybody's going to typically air with this golf club. 2 and even 3-irons are going to get here and just kind of do what we're talking about not doing. Is there any more rewarding feel in the game than taking a 2-iron and hitting it center of the club face? Well, I'll tell you what, this is a great barometer for me to know if I'm swinging well, because if I can swing this like a 7 or 8-iron, hit a solid golf shot up in the air, I know I'm doing exactly what I want to do. Okay, so most amateurs, they're not going to have a 2-iron in their bag. They're not going to have a 3, maybe not even a 4. Yeah. But even the 5-iron can be intimidating. What's a common fault you see from amateurs when they get that 5-iron in their hands? Well, I think one thing, they're trying to hit it too far. Typically you see that day in, day out with amateurs, especially in the Pro-Ams on the PGA Tour. Just remembering that one time they hit that 5-iron 183 yards and just flushed it and up there to 5 feet, forgetting the other 4,000 times that came up way short. So I think they're trying to hit it too far. And secondly, I think they're aiming poorly. You know, aim it up the front half, middle of the green, and you're gonna eventually save strokes doing that. David, we worked our way through your bag from the wedges all the way to that 2-iron, and the one thing that your approach for all those clubs has in common is this release pattern that you have. Can we just finish our show with that release pattern one more time? Just tell me what it is you're trying to accomplish with releasing the golf club, how you do it. You know what, it's taken a lot of time getting back into it because I got to where I was pulling, things like that, but I want to get up, I want to be set up, I want to get to the top of my swing and make sure I get set, because typically when you hear the term jumping, okay, somebody jumps, they don't complete their backswing and they go like this. And now you're just in no man's land. So I want to get the club set so I can now make sure it comes out on top of the plane, and the club is already square way back here. So now to keep it square, I'm just trying to get my right hand to go under my left. So if I'm in this position here, if I go like this, you can see the face isn't rolling. If I continue down, the handle's going, and now I'm going to have to roll. So I try to be here, get it go under, around me, and go from there. Can you finish this off with another one of those bullet 2-irons? Let's see if we can hit a nice, high, good 2-iron. I love it. Absolutely love it. David, we appreciate your time. Thank you. And you certainly have a lot of people out there reevaluating how they swing the golf club. We'd like to also thank the folks here at Ritz-Carlton Golf Club, Orlando, and of course, our viewers. We appreciate you tuning in, and I know you've learned something from the former #1 in the world, David Duval. We'll see you next time on Golf Channel Academy.